Okay, we're up to Tzadik Gimel Amid Beis, and we're in the middle of a sugya. Now, Rabbi Akiva holds that Kedushin is not typhus by Chayav Elavin. That's din. If you don't know by the end of Yevamot, then you're in bad shape. He also Kedushin is not typhus by Chayav Elavin. Yesterday, the Gemara was Machadish, Rabbi Yanai was Machadish, Shitas Rav, that Kedushin would not be typhus by a Yevamot Lishuk. A woman whose husband dies and she falls to Yibum, if another man would come along and be Makadisha, even though it's what it's a lav of even though there's it's chayve lavim, nonetheless the kedushin wasn't typhus. So Rabbi Yanai was asked by Rabbi Yochanan, "What are you coming to tell me?" It's a Mishnah. So let's go over that Mishnah, and the Gemara is on again. Tzadik Beis Amid Beis. I said Tzadik Gimel, Tzadik Beis Amid Beis. So right before the lines get wide. So Amalei Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan says to his Rabbi Yanai, Loi Mishnah Seina Huzi, is it not a Mishnah that in fact that Kedusha is not typhus by Chayve Lavim? We're going to bring a Mishnah, and at the end of the Mishnah, we're going to bring in the case that we need. Ha'oimel Leisha, someone says that not. Ha'oimel Leisha, Hariyat Mekudeshes Li, La'achashes Gayer. A guy says to a woman, I'm in the process of being a guy. When I'm a guy, you should be Mekudeshes to me. This guy, he says to a guy, after you're a guy, you should be Mekudeshes to me. He's in Eved and says, after I'm freed. He says to a shivcha, after you're freed. After your husband dies. After your sister dies. This is the case we need. After Yevamot gives you chalitza, ain't mekudeshes. So what do you see from the last case? That it's not what? It's not mekudeshes. It's not mekudeshes. So he said, Amalei, loved the loy lo chaspa. If I did not go ahead and lift up the broken piece of pottery, to say, would you found the gem underneath it? Says Rabbi Yanai to him. In other words, all these cases, the reason it doesn't work is because something that apparently you're not free yet. You're still a guy. You're not free. And in our case, you still, the chalitza wasn't done yet. All these cases, you would have said it's because right now I can't do it because I need something else to be done. So I would say that who are in the case of chalitza, and so the chiddush of Rabbi Yanai is that no, despite all that, the din of chalitza is what is the din of the kedushin is not typhus. So Rabbi Yanai was machadish to you that the din is not al stava the magdish stava shleba la'olam, but the reason is because what kedushin is not typhus by Yevamot l'shuk. Okay, now says Rev Shlakish, Amalei Rev Shlakish, he loved the kosich gavra rabba if not for the fact that Rabbi Yanai gavra rabba, he praised your pshat in this Mishnah. That your insight, Rabbi Yochanan in the Mishnah was what? Als Kedusha is not Toifis and not als Ein Magdash Tov Shlab Olam. In other words, you like your pshat. If not that, I would have said a different pshat. In other words, Rabbi Yanai is being masking to Rabbi Yochanan that goof is the pshat in the Mishnah. Why? You can't go ahead and be Mekadesh Yevamot L'shuk before the Chalitza. Because it's al Ein, because Kedusha is not Toifis V'chayv Elavim, and not because Ein Magdash Tov Shlab Olam. Says Reish Lakish in that, had not Rabbi Yanai gone ahead and lauded your pshat, I would have said a different pshat. What would I have said? This Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva holds Kedusha is not typhus by chayvein lavim bechlal. In other words, it's not a din unique to Yevamot l'shuk, but Einachinami could be like Shmuel that it is typhus by Yevamot l'shuk, and this Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Akiva. That's what he's going to say. Right? You love the kosich gavra rabba. Rabbi Akiva. That Mishnah that we just quoted is Rabbi Akiva. The Amma ain't kedushin typhus the chayve lavim. So it's not a unique din to Yevamot l'shuk. It's a klaliistic din. The Gemara is going to prove that this Mishnah could not go according to Rabbi Yanai or to Rabbi Akiva for the following reason. Rabbi Akiva holds a person could be Magdash Tov Shlab Olam. So therefore, the guy would be Kedushin, and the Shech and the Eved would be Kedushin, right? So if you hold that up, the Rabbi Akiva ki amalei la'achash yachles lech yevimech livsei ba Kedushay. It should be. If you tell me it's Rabbi Akiva, then in fact the Kedushin should be typhus. You know why? The Shamina Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Adam, Makna Dav Shlaba Loilam. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion that Adav Makla V'Shalom. Now we're going to have a digression to go into the sugya of Adam Makna Dav Shlaba Loilam. Okay, so again, the concept being that chalois cannot be in something that's not here now. So now you're not a Yevam, you're not a free lady now. You didn't get a chalitza. It's not here now. And so says Rabbi. So we're retorting Reish Lakish. How could you say Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Akiva would have said Einachinami, even though she's still right now a Yevam L'Shuk. If you're Makadisha, you could be Makadisha. So you can't say it's Rabbi Akiva. So the Pshat really is according, like Rabbi Yochanan said, that Kedusha is not Toivus Mechabi Lav according to the Rabbanon. Because Al Karchach, you can't say this Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. Why? Because of the side point that Ein Adam Magdav Shalom. Rabbi Akiva is of the opinion a person could be Magdav Shalom. Where do you see that? None. A Mishnah in Masechta and Ksubis and the Darim says the Gemara. Koinim means you make us like a carbon. Koinim shani oisa lepich. And you say a woman says to a husband, listen, whatever I make is koinim to you. In other words, we know that Maisa Yadech goes to the husband, right? Maisa Yadech goes to the husband. Whatever I make is koinim to you. So she is. Ever I make l'chayra, she didn't make anything yet, right? That's futures, right? So l'chayra, if you would hold over here that it works, you would have a raya that Oda Makna Davash Labalaylam. If you would say over here it work, you would say a person can Makna Davash Labalaylam. Kainam Sheni Yosel Afichech, ain't Sadikim Lam Aleph Kenny, ain't Sarch Lahafa. You don't have to do it because ain't Oda Makna Davash Labalaylam. Rabbi Kiva, I mean, no, Yafa, you could go ahead and you have to be made for it. Why? Shemet Hadif Lav Yosim in a royalai. In other words, what's mishubit to me, you know what I said the wrong pshat, guys. A person can't go ahead and ask for something that's not theirs. A person can't ask for something that's not theirs. In other words, there's a certain amount of money that a woman owes her husband from what she works. So therefore, she cannot go ahead and ask her that. She couldn't go ahead and ask that because it's not hers. So therefore, it's unnecessary to go ahead and be made for because she couldn't ask it in the first place. Says Rabbi Akiva, you in fact could go ahead and it would have to be made for it. Why? Let's say she makes more than the requirement to give you. So she's asking something that is hers. But still, whatever that is did not come to the olam yet. Still, whatever, in other words, there are two inyanim over here. One, you can't ask something that's not yours. And sveitens, you can't ask something that's not in the world. Rabbi Akiva says you would have to go ahead and be made for the neder of your wife. Why? One, because there's a part that is in her jurisdiction, anything more than her requirement to give to you. And sveitens, if you're going to say it's not in the world yet, I hold a person could be makned of shalom. And that's the raya that the Mishnah that was quoted by Rabbi Yanai, that Rabbi Yochanan quoted to Rabbi Yanai, can't be according to Rabbi Akiva. So it must be the reason why a person can't be makadosh Yevam L'Shuk is because kedusha is not taifas. And therefore, Rabbi Reish Lakish, you were wrong in your assessment. Good. On that, the Gemara says, one second, maybe he wasn't wrong. It's not speaking where you're being makdash davish labalaylam on the payers that will come. She says the hands that are going to do the work, they're koinim, whatever more than that is to you. Now the hands are in the world already, so it must be that what. It must be that has nothing to do with Davish Labalaylam. So if it has nothing to do with Davish Labalaylam, maybe Kiva holds a person could not be Magda Davish Labalaylam. And therefore, the reason why the Mishnah that Rabbi is quoted by Rabbi Yochanan could be because it's according to Rabbi Akiva. So we're restoring Reish Lakish's taina that he would have said had Rabbi Yanai not gone ahead and praised the Pshat. So let's go through the shlavim over here. The shlavim says Rabbi Yanai, Yevamot L'Shuk, kedusha is not taifas according to Rabbanon. Again, this is the chiddush. Rabbi Kiva is no chiddush. According to Rabbanon, Yevamot L'Shuk is not taifas. Says Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi, what's the big chiddush? I got a Mishnah that says that what if a person's mekadesh a Yevamot L'Shuk, it doesn't work. So you see, it's not taifas. So says Rabbi to him, if I didn't tell you the reason, you would have said it's a different reason. You would have said it's not be makned of a Shabbat. But now that I told you the reason as kedushin, it's not taifas, now you have that reason. So Rabbi Yanai is substantiating Rabbi Yochanan's pshat. Says Reish Lakish, you know what? If not for Rabbi Yanai substantiating pshat, I would have said a different pshat. I would have said the Mishnah that was quoted, the reason why Yevam L'Shuk doesn't work is because it's Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Kiva ain't other, and it's aswat that Rabbi Kiva holds kedusha not tevis by chavi lavin. Fred Gemara on Rabbi Reish Lakish's remark, it can't be Rabbi Kiva, because Rabbi Kiva is of the opinion that a person can be makned of shalom olam, because you see by the isha, in fact, that you were makned of shalom olam. So you see that so therefore it can't be like you Rabbi Reish Lakish Taina. And for the Gemara, no, from there you don't see anything of Rabbi Kiva's shita and other magna of shalom olam. Ken Zayin, a person can't be magna of shalom olam. The isha you would require to take off the neder because she made her hands kind of right. She made the ma'isa and the hands are in the world. So that's just a point that Rabbi Reish Lakish's taina is a taina, but the bottom line is Rabbi Yanai did not say it, and we'll accept that Einach Hinami will accept that a person cannot be magdish a Yevamot l'shuk. Now the Gemara is going to digress and go through, prove that you're of the opinion, Reish Lakish, you're of the opinion that, and you said it's speaking by the woman being made for the hands. Therefore it's ain't other magdav shavel oilam. Therefore you have to say it's going on the hands. We're going to show someone disagrees that Rabbi Kiva holds that ain't other magdav shavel oilam. Not only Rabbi Kiva, a whole slew of great Amoraim and Tanoim hold that a person could go ahead and be magdav shavel oilam. And we're going to digress most of the daf. So different cases where it's not in the world, then we're going to see the chalos works. Okay. Says the Gemara the following. Says the Gemara, Upligi the Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. Rav Huna, who says in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, it's speaking where you magdish the hands, because that's in the world, and Rabbi Kiva agrees that ain't the magdash of Shebel Olam. There's the Amoira Rav Nachman by Yitzchak argues on that, and holds Rabbi Kiva's of the opinion that the magdash of Shebel Olam. Rav Nachman Yitzchak, Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Rav Huna Kirav, Rav Kirebi Yanai, Reb Yanai Kireb Chia, Reb Chia Kirebi, Rebbe Kireb Meir, Reb Meir Kireb Eliezer ben Yaakov, Eliezer ben Yaakov Kireb Akiva. The other Makdav Shabbat Loilam. Let's see a Rashi over here, guys. Rav Huna Kirav, Kloimer May Rav Shehu Rabbe Kible. From Rav, who was this Rebbe, he was Makabel. The Rav May Rebbe Yanai, and Rav was Makabel from Yanai. The Chen Kulam Zel Lamayla Midorish Lasei. Each one a generation above the other was Makabel that a person could be Makdav Shabbat Loilam. Okay, so now we're going to go through each one. Says the Gemara. Rav Huna, Maihi, where do you see Rav Huna says a person could be Makdav Shabbat Loilam? The Itmar. Hamaycha Paris Dekel Lechaveroi. So now you're selling the Paris. The Paris are not in this world. So if you hold that Ein Adam Magdav Shabbat Loilam, the sale is not a sale. If you hold that Magdav Shabbat Loilam, the sale is a sale. Hamaycha Paris Ledekel Lechaveroi. Amar Rav Huna. Achlei Bo Loilam, until the Paris come in the world, Yachal Lachsabay. You can have Charata. Mishabal Loilam and Yachal Lachsabay. Then you can't. Why? Because Adam Magdav Shabbat Loilam. Once they're in the world already, it's chalais from the time where you were magnet when they weren't in the world. That's the raya that Rav Huna holds. Adam magnet of Shabbat Loilam, the fact that you can't rescind the sale. Rav Nachman Amanoi, even when it comes in the world, you're able to go ahead and have karata. Why? Because it never was a sale. It never was a sale. Rav Nachman, however, Rav Nachman's of the opinion, Medina, the shamit for achel, if you go and take the food off the tree, they won't take it away from him. This is a din of mechila, that since he assumes the deal is on, he'll be meichel. Bottom line is, you see Rav Huna holds that Adam Makna Davar Shbar Lo'olam, the fact, once the payers are in the world, the kinyan works. Rav, where do you see Rav holds Adam Makna Davar Shbar Lo'olam? Davar Rav Huna Amar Rav, Ha'oimel Chaveiroi, if a person says to his friend, Sodazu Shani Loikeach, this field I'm about to purchase, when I purchase it, Kanuya L'chame Achshav, should be acquired to you from now. In other words, I'm giving you a present now on something that I don't have. I don't have this field now. When I have it from now, you have to see what Taisa says. May Aksha, from now, it's going to be yours. It's a matana. How can I be magna something that's lo baloilam? Elawat, by the fact that Rav says you could do it, is a raya that what? That the magna baloilam. Kana. Rabbi Yanai, Kirab Chia. Rabbi Yanai holds like Rabbi Chia that other magna davar shavei olam. Rabbi Yanai Havile Arisa. Rabbi Yanai had a sharecropper. Davi Maisle Kansi the Pericom Ali Shabbat. Every Erev Shabbos, he bring about a basket of peris. Now he wanted to go ahead, Rabbi Yanai, and he wanted to eat these peris on Shabbos. So usually the person would bring him before Shabbos. He would take off Trumas and Meiser, and it would be okay. Here's what happened. He was late once. Now, if he brings it on Shabbos, Midrabanan, you're not able to go ahead and take off Trumas and Meiser on Shabbos because it's like tikkun mana. You're going to be metaking it. You're fixing it. So here's what Rabbi Yanai did. He was later bringing the produce. Shakal esa miperi b'beisa alayhu. Right? He went ahead and he took peris from his house on it. How's he able to do that? So look at Toysvis, the little Toysvis in the bottom. Maisi kansa de peri omari Yimishal Aris have the produce that he used belonged to the Aris. So you notice in the Rabbi Yanai, and that he had given to Rabbi Yanai. Yimishal Rabbi Yanai, because if it was his own, it would not be considered Davash Lebala Oilam. I feel him having the Chubarim. Kivin should be other litlish, as we're going to see. So the bottom line is, it was belonged to the sharecropper. So also So now he wanted to know Rabbi Yanai if he did the right thing. So in other words, the peiris that didn't come in yet from the field is a Davash Lebala Oilam. It's not there yet, and he's taking off what? So if it's good Maisa, you'd have a raya that both Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Chia hold that a person could be magna Davash Lebala Oilam because he's taking Maisa of something that's not there. So I'm a lace. Rabbi Chia told Rabbi Yanai, Shapa, this he did okay. The Tanya, it says by Maisa Sheni, L'mantil miliyir es Hashem Elokecha kol hayamim elu shebasas v'yamtiv. So regarding Maisa Sheni, it says in order that what you should go ahead and have food. So it's elu shebasas v'yam tovim. So you should have food for Shabbos v'yamtiv. Now lemay hilchasa. For what halacha did it say you could take off Maisa Sheni that you should have food for yamtiv? Ilay malasuri mechol. If you need to tell me that you take off Meiser and eat, it's the Kral, the Mishnah tilt of Rabbanan. Guys, what's the reason you can't take a Meiser off on Shabbos? The rice of the Rabbanan. It's the Rabbanan, right? It's tikkun mana. Why would you need a pasuk to mata and this is the Rabbanan? Guys, even though it says tiltal, but usually is muktzah, I think it means the Rabbanan over here. It means like just the fact that it's what it's tikkun mana. So you wouldn't need a pasuk for that. You wouldn't need a pasuk for that. So Amid Beis. So what do you need the pasuk for? Elolav ki gavna. It must be what this case, right? It must be this case. Says Rashi, the mutal aser amashla baloilam. Something that's not here now. V'yotza lavoi l'tzarich einik Shabbos. So you see, both Rabbi Yanai and Rabbi Chia, who asked this too, would go ahead. Rabbi Yanai, who in fact separated the Maisa, Rabbi Chia, who's substantiating his actions, would say it's okay. So you have a raya that what a person can be magna d'avashlo baloilam. It's a very good raya. So just a side point. Amalei says Rabbi Yanai, I saw a dream. I had a dream, and in the dream I saw, what did I see? I saw kana rotzitz. I saw a cracked kana. And this cracked kana, I think, is a remiss that I didn't do the right thing. Lav hochi kamali. This is not they were telling me in my dream. The pasuk says, "Atahine batachta lecha al mishenes hakone haratzus." You're placing your hope, your trust in a stick of a broken reed. Al mitzrayim. In other words, you're placing your hope on a broken reed. It's not a good thing. I saw this in my dream. So how can you tell me that taking Paris off is a good thing? I see this kana ratzutz in my dream. Pash, this is not a good idea. So Rabbi Chia not only gave him psak halacha, Rabbi Chia interpreted his dream. Rabbi Chia also interpreted his dream. What did he say? What did he say in his dream? So, this is what they showed you in your dream. A broken reed, a cut reed, a reed that it's cracked, it won't break. You did the good thing. So it goes, you, Rabbi Yanai, you were interpreting the wrong pasuk. The right pasuk is mishpat emes. You did the right thing. Okay. Anyway, we have a raya that both Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yanai are of the opinion that what or the when you're able to take payers, mice of payers that you didn't receive yet. Okay. Continuing along the line, Rebbe, where do we see Rebbe holds in fact that what a person could be makta davashal b'loilam? The Tanya, Saskir Eved Aladonav. Don't return an Eved to its master. What are we speaking about? Rabbi Omer, we're speaking about you purchased an Eved for the purpose of freeing the Eved. You purchased an Eved for the purpose of freeing him. Now, Hechidami, what's exactly the case? Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, the cost of law, you wrote to the Eved, when I purchase you, you will be acquired to your friend now. So it's a davar shel ba'olam. As of yet, you hadn't purchased him. Yet nonetheless, if you do this, right, you have to free him. Why do you see a person can be magda davar shel ba'olam? That's Rebbe. Reb Meir, where do you see Reb Meir? It's our Mishnah, but it's really a brisa because we had a little few words. The Tanya, let's be to Tanya. Haim Elisha, Hariyat Mekudeshes Liyom Mekudeshes to me. Lachish is Gaira after what? I'm a Gaia. Lachish is Gaia after I'm a Gaia you. Leachish is Tachri after I'm free. Lachish is Tachri after you're free. Lachish Yomas by Lech after your husband dies. Leachish Tamas Achosech after your sister dies. Leachish Yach is also you after Yavim gives you Chalitza. Ain't a Mekudeshes, Yam Mekudeshes, Reb Meir Mekudeshes. Why you Mekudeshes? Because what? Od Namakne Dav Shlabel Yoilam. Good. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. We see Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov in Tanya. Yes, or Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Afilu im Oma Peris Arugazu Tulushim. The Peris of this row that are disattached. A Truma al Peris Arugazu Mechubarim should be Peris on this row of attached Peris. A Peris Arugas Mechubarim, or these Peris that are attached, should be Truma al Peris Zu Tulushim. When, and here's the key, the Cheshayavai Shlish v'Yitlishu. When it grows a third of its growth, we saw it's Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, where it grows a third of its growth, that's when it's a mechuyev. So as of yet, it hadn't grown a third of its growth. So it's a davar shel ba'olam. However, ve'viu shlish, then it goes a third of its growth. V'nit l'shu, dvar of kayamim. So you see a person go ahead, be magda davar shel ba'olam. You're able to take off truma before there was a chi of truma because they hadn't grown a shlish. So that's what we see Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds the magda davar shel ba'olam. Rabbi Akiva did not. Rabbi Akiva says, so now, a woman says, it's koinem what I do for your mouth. Ain't it tzarech lahafer? Rabbi Akiva ama yafer, shemetadav lo yosim in a roila. So in other words, what do you see? This long-winded brisa, at the end, he didn't give the teretz that it's speaking where your hands are koinem. You know why? Because einachinami or the magda davar shel ba'olam. So that was that we began the sugya. Rav Huna Rav Yeshua, who gave the teretz that this brisa, this Mishnah in Niksubis and the Darim is speaking where she said her hands are kainim. Why do you have to come onto the hands? Because you hold that stam, the fruit, the work is the davar shel ba'olam. So you had to come onto something that's ba'olam. But now when you see Rav Nachman by Yitzchak gives this slew of Amoraim and Tanoim who hold Adam Magdal davar shel ba'olam, and in this case where Rabbi Akiva says you would have to do hafara, and it doesn't speak when it's speaking about the hands, because the person could be magna davar shel ba'olam. He argues on Rav Huna Rav Yeshua. So that's why we brought this in. Okay, and then now that ends this digression. Okay, now we have a klal like this, guys. Eid echad neman bisurim. An eid echad is believed v'heta. He's believed to say I shechted. A woman's believed to say I'm not a nida anymore. A woman is believed to go ahead and say that one person believed to say I took up Trumas and Maisa, Mishnah and Gittin. An eid echad is neman bisurim. When it comes to Devar Erva, we say Ein Davar Erva Pachas Mishnayim. Ein Davar Erva Pachas Mishnayim. And even when an Eid Echad is Neman Bisurin, that's Heichad Lo Yischazik Yisura. That's where we have an established Issa. Where we have an established Issa, an Eid Echad is not believed. So this whole Perek, this whole Gemara that we're saying that a woman is, an Eid Echad is believed to matter a woman is a huge Kiddush. Guys, you heard that Akdama. You heard that Akdama. It's really a huge Kiddush. Everything screams, you can't get married. All of Talmudic literature says you can't get married. Here we have it. Chazak of Ashes Ish. She is an Ashes Ish. Comes along a person says your husband died. We're going to believe. Why is that? It's because of the tremendous chiddush of what? Since we're machmer on her in the end, right? In the end, right? We're making on the beginning. At the end, if this woman goes ahead and gets married, her life is finished. She gets to get divorce from the first husband. She has to get divorced from the second husband. She's penniless because she gets no ksuba. All her children are mamzerim, the Raisa and the Rabbanan. Her life is over. As a result of that, Isha Daiko Mitzvah, based on the svara that a woman is not going to put herself in the situation, she's going to check out without a shadow of a doubt to make sure. Good. That was yes, I got it.
But wasn't the premise for this whole reason is that we don't want her to be an aguna? So the whole premise is unique for the particular Isha. And then as you added just now, and that's the other flip
so
side.
You just added to Knech. So why? Since we don't want to be a guna, we instituted that. Okay. Now, but it's a huge chiddush. So now, taking that, Gemara is returning to as we say, the regular program, getting back to Yevamot, leaving Magdash Abalim a shaila, and that shaila goes to the guts of the matter. And then we're going to spend some time on this. Okay, we'll introduce it today and spend more time on it in the coming daf. So it says the Gemara, boy, me name Rav Sheshes. Said the Yisrael Rav Sheshes the following: Eid echad biyevama mahu. An eid echad biyevama, says Rashi, meid shemes baila kadesh tisyabim. In other words, she has no children. She has no children. She's not going to be able to go ahead and marry to the street because she has a brother-in-law. So now, in that scenario, would an eid echad be believed? What's the stadim to the shaila? Okay. Mahu. Time of eid echad mishum de milsa davidi legluye loy mishaker. Something that is subject to being revealed, he's not going to lie. A person is not going to come along and say your husband's dead unless he's dead, because again, it's a milsa davidi legluye. Because as we saw in the first Mishnah where he showed up, so therefore they won't lie. For hachanami loy mishaker, in the case of Yevama, where there's no children and she's going to fall to Yibam, the eid echad won't lie. The reason why she is believed is not so much the eid echad, is because the woman is going to be medayik u'mitzvah. It's not, again, based upon my hakdama, you don't understand the first side of the shaila, correct? Based upon my hakdama, why should the eid echad be believed? You're going against a chazak over here, correct? Well, Elamah, maybe when we said eid echad is not believed, that when it's not in milsa davidi gluya. Milsa davidi gluya, in other words, there's a really strong reason why a person won't lie over here. After all, he's going to be subject to what? To forget ridicule. I mean, think about what he's doing over here. He's mattering an Eishes Ish, something, he also has a big cheshbon on his head. Hashem will not be very happy with this guy, right? So now, for Hacha, Kivin the Zimna, now, if the reason is Daikel Mitzvah, there's a reason over here by Yevama, he should not be believed. Why? The Kivin the Zimna the Rachmalei, sometimes maybe she loves her brother-in-law. The Rachmalei Rashi says, says Yevama, she loves it, she loves him. So then, Loi Daiku Mitzvah. Then you won't be medayik mitzvah. So here we're asking the big shaila, what's the halacha? She's not married anymore, based upon the edus. She's falling to yibum. Maybe she won't be medayik because the idea of being married a brother-in-law appeals to her. So that's the two study to the shaila. Amalu Rav Sheshes, said Rav Sheshes, Tinisua. You learned the answer to that from our Mishnah. Amrullah, you said the following: Amrullah meis b'neich v'achach meis bailech. Her husband, it's speaking a case where a husband and a son, they went overseas. Both the husband and the son went overseas. And an aide comes along and says, your son died first, and then your husband died. So if your son died first and then your husband died, you are Yevamot the Shuk. You don't have any children. And she, in fact, married a brother-in-law. Afterwards, they said to her, guess what? Your husband died first, and therefore your son was afterwards, and therefore you don't fall to Yibam, and you're living with your brother-in-law, which is the Chi of Karis. The Vlad is a mamsa. Hechidami. What exactly is the case? Who testified over here? Now we didn't spend a lot of time in this in the Mishnah because it was a long Mishnah. Hechidami. Betray. It two people said that your husband died. That two people said that first your son died and then your husband died. And then two people came along and said, no, first your husband died and then your son died. My chos is the samcha hani. Why you samach on the second pair and say this is a mamzer? Be samach on the first pair. Why take say? It's trade. They market each other. So leave the status quo. And you know that's right. For ode mamzer, you're saying a vadai. It's a mamzer. Suffix mamzer. It's a suffix mamzer. It's not a vadai mamzer. Again, we have two Adam saying that the son died first. We have two other Adam that said that the son died afterwards. It's not the same Adam, and they market each other. What's the din of Adam Mucheshes? You don't believe one over the other, unless it's Adam Zomonim. That's the chiddush of Adam Zomonim, right? You believe the second rather than the first. Now, the chitema loidak. You'll say that, you know what? Really, the Mishnah when it said that what it's a mamza. Loidak really means a suffix mamza. But midikani seifa, when the last case we said, Arisha knows what was the last case? Your husband died, but then no, he was alive and he died afterwards. Right? You know, the third she remarried. Then they came along and said, no, really, he was alive when you remarried. But then he consequently died afterwards. So he said, any child born before the death is a mamza vadai, and any child born after the death is not. So there it's speaking about mamza vadai, and it's the same Mishnah. So if that's mamza vadai, the resha, by the case of the Yevamot, also should be mamza vadai. So it can't be like duck, says the Gemara. So therefore, that must not be the mitzias of the case where we're saying it's a vadai mamzer, where it was 2 versus 2. Because 2 versus 2 is, again, she's not necessarily have to leave, and she's not necessarily Charles a mamzer. Ella, what do you have to say? Lav, shmamina, chad. The one person said, your son died first. Ve'asi betray, and now 2 people came along and akashu and said, no, your husband died first. 1/8 said that what? That your son died first. And based upon that, you remarried. And then 2 people came and said, no, your husband died first. Oh, your husband died first. And now you live, and the child was alive and there's no yibum. You're living in sin with your brother-in-law, which is a chiyav karis, which is a mamza vadai. So that would be the case, right? And the reason why we don't believe is because 2 people were makish. What happens if 2 people were not makish? Then one would be believed to go ahead and matter the Yevamot. So says Rav Sheshes, and the answer to your shaila, would an Eid Echad believe by Yevamot? The answer is unequivocally yes. Mamish a cheshbon shebecheshbon, beautiful cheshbon. Moment time. We have a shaila. What's a shaila? In a case where a woman's not has no children and comes along an Eid Echad and says your husband died, will we believe vis-a-vis the Yevamot? So that was the shaila. What was the sudden to the shaila? Maybe is it a belief in the Eid Echad or is it a belief in the woman? And over here, the belief in the woman, maybe she loves her brother-in-law and she won't go ahead and check it out so much. Good. Says of Sheshes, I'll prove to you from our Mishnah, and in fact that you believed. I'll prove to you from our Mishnah that in fact that you are believed. What's the proof? Right? You told me in a case where the person comes along and says that your son died and you're not your son died and you're not subject to Yibum. Your son died, you're not subject to Yibum, and you go ahead and no. In the case where it says that your husband died first and then your son, I'm mixing up. In a case where what? That your son died and afterwards your husband died, and right, therefore you fall to Yibum, right? If your son died first, you fall to Yibum. Okay, that's the case. Your son died first and then fall to Yibum. She marries a brother-in-law. Comes along and says no. 2 Adam says no. Said it's vadei mamza. Okay, how do you have a case of vadei mamza? It's 2 versus 2. It should be a suffix mamza. Eloi, it must be the case. How do you create a vadei mamza? Only 1/8 said your son died first to matter you, and then 2 said no, that your husband died first, and therefore you're living in sin with your brother-in-law. If not for the 2 people coming along, then you would have been believed to go ahead and live with your brother-in-law. Why? Because you see an Eid Echad is believed. Okay. Says the Gemara, Ikadiyami, there's another lashon. Ikadiyami, there's another lashon over here. Let's see the lashon. Ikadiyami, haloiti boilach. It's not a shaila. Da filu ihu nami mehimna. She would even be believed to say her husband's dead. That a woman that says my husband died, Tinase, she can remarry. Meis Bailey, Tisyabing, my husband died, no children, Yibam. Kiti Boilach, Lemisha Yevama La Alma. The Shaila was to mata a Yevama La Alma. Rashi says, Yevama La Alma, Eight Echad Matira Lishuk, Sha'imala Mace Yevimech, Yevama died, by Mace Bailech, Viakach Mace Benech. In other words, the Shaila is where not whether she can marry her Yavam. Of course she can marry her Yavam. It's the opposite. Can we free her to marry the street, to take off the Yibum? As Yibum, there is no Shaila. That wasn't the Shaila. Zicha and Eid Echad would be believed to go ahead and matter to Yavam. Why? Because even here, she herself would be believed to matter Yavam. Okay, we'll see that later on in the Masechta. So what's the Shaila? Is an Eid Echad believed to matter her l'shuk? In a case to say that what? That your husband died and then your son died, right? Right? Or a case to say that what? Your Yavam died. Would you be believed in that case? That's the Shaila. My timer. The Eid Mishum the Milsa Davidi Leguye loy mishaker and Hachanami loy mishaker. He's always believed. Dilma time of the Eid Mishum the Ihi Daiki Mitzvah, right? V'holoi Daiku Mitzvah. She won't be medayik to make sure that her Yavama died. Why wouldn't she be medayik? The Misnochu the Sanyale. Maybe she hates him. In other words, we can play both sides of the fence. In the first way, we could say maybe she loves him and she won't be medayik mitzvah, or maybe she hates him, she won't be medayik mitzvah. In other words, once there's a reason to say like daika mitzvah, it's not conflicting that she's always going to love a yavam, and it's not always that it could be she hates him or vice versa. But since we can remove the daika mitzvah from him, are you believed or not? So the second shaila is the yavam l'shuk, and that's the shaila. Okay, there's Hashem. We'll continue.